Hold on to your hats, this is not a mock-up, you're looking at an official photo of Canon's upcoming pro mirrorless camera, the EOS R3, and in this video I'll reveal everything that Canon's officially announced so far. And since that won't take too long, I'll also tell you about 3 new RF lenses. Hi, I'm Gordon from Camera Labs, and rather than making you wait until the end of this video, I'm going to get straight into the R3 right now. All of the information that I'm going to give you comes direct from a personal briefing that I had with Canon, so none of it is speculation, rumour or second-hand reporting, just the facts. Now I will say straight away though that the EOS R3 is a development announcement at the time I made this video, so there's not a great deal of information, just like the Nikon Z9 about a month earlier, so let's get on with it. Possibly the biggest surprise is the model name. It's called the R3, not the R1. Does this mean an even higher end EOS R1 could be in the pipeline? Possibly, but personally speaking, I don't think so. I mean, the R3 is going to outperform the R5, which already outperforms the 1DX Mark III in every respect, other than if you have a personal preference for an optical viewfinder. So while officially the R3 slots in between the R5 and the 1DX Mark III, personally speaking, I think it's going to be Canon's true flagship camera. The EOS R3 unsurprisingly employs a built-in grip, like a mini 1DX Mark III, or indeed like Nikon's own Z9, and Canon is claiming 1D levels of weather resistance. Now there's no word yet on size, weight, or even battery type, but it looks sort of similar in size to an EOS R5 when that model is fitted with a battery grip. Now it remains to be seen whether the EOS R3 will employ 2 batteries or perhaps use a single pack like the 1DX Mark III, but right now it's interesting to look at the actual design that Canon's gone for here. Like Nikon, unsurprisingly, both companies have adopted a larger, chunky body with a built-in grip for this pro segment. And it's in contrast to Sony's strategy for the Alpha 1, which, as you know, does not have a built-in grip and requires you to fit an optional battery grip if you'd like something more to hold on to or indeed want longer battery life. Now, personally speaking, I always thought that professional sports and wildlife photographers actually desired that chunkier, tougher looking body with the built-in portrait grip. But having asked that question in my recent Alpha 1 review, it turns out that an awful lot of people seem to prefer Sony's strategy for mobility, where they leave it up to you to decide whether you want to fit that grip for the larger size or not and go for something smaller and lighter. However, it's not quite as simple as saying, oh, I can either fit the grip or take the grip away. If the grip is always built in from day one, then that camera is able to employ different kind of external features, additional screens on the back that could go over the join between a battery grip and a standard body, and of course also being able to accommodate a bigger single battery. So there are benefits to having that grip built in as standard. But as before, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are, especially if you are a pro sports or wildlife photographer. The EOS R3 will feature Canon's very first stacked BSI sensor for high-speed readout and reduced rolling shutter, but there's no details on the photo or video resolution yet. Until this announcement, Sony was the only company to have produced a full-frame sensor with a stacked design for faster readout. They first employed one on the Alpha 9, then the A9 II, and most recently on the Alpha 1. And indeed, due to Nikon saying that the Z9 will be able to support 8K video, then they'll almost certainly be using the same sensor as the Alpha 1, although they will probably never actually be able to state that. However, the one thing we do know about the Canon sensor is that it will be their own design, so the resolution for photos and video could be completely different, but as yet, we don't know. The EOS R3's only solid specification at this point is the ability to shoot at 30 frames per second, presumably with an electronic shutter, and thanks to that faster readout, there's going to be less skewing than its previous models. Now, is it just me, or is it a bit of a coincidence that the EOS R3 will shoot at the same top speed as the Alpha 1? Now, once again, I know that Canon is not going to be using that Sony sensor. They don't do that on their full-frame or APS-C models, but it is a bit of a coincidence. I wonder if there's some sort of technological limitation that allows a top speed of 30 frames per second. Canon's promotional video for the EOS R3 shows icons for human, animal and bird eyes, and while the R5 and R6 can already do that very successfully, Canon describes the R3 as having the next generation dual pixel CMOS AF for improved tracking. They've also teased a new subject will be added to that tracking system. But the IAF that I'm really excited about in the EOS R3 is the ability to actually select and move the autofocus area with your actual eyes. Now, this was first deployed on the Canon EOS 5. That was a film SLR in the 90s and a camera that I actually owned. And you would glance through the viewfinder at its 3 AF points or up into the corner in order to activate the depth of field preview. And it actually worked really well, but that was for a camera which had, as I recall, only 3 autofocus points. And I presume that the EOS R3 is going to have considerably more. However, Canon has had a long time to work on this technology, and it really will give it an edge over the competition. I mean, imagine that, being able to look around the frame to select that autofocus point way faster than you would with a traditional joystick. Although I'd be very surprised if Canon doesn't put on traditional physical controls as well. And that's all I know about the R3 so far. Like Nikon's Z9 announcement, there's little in the way of broader specifications, price or even release date, but surely the target for both companies would be to have them ready for the delayed Tokyo Olympics, which with any luck could happen in summer 2021. Want to know all of the official specifications the moment they're announced? No problem, just subscribe to my channel, it's right there. A pro sports body needs native super telephotos with fast apertures, and the first 2 models in the RF mount are officially confirmed to be a 400mm 2.8 and a 600mm f4, costing £12,500 and £13,400 respectively, or essentially the same price as the existing EF versions. Revealingly, both models appear to have the exact same optical construction as the EF Mark III versions released in September 2018, and that's no bad thing because both of those lenses were extremely sharp, optically speaking. And indeed, if you look closely at the new RF models, you can see that they look pretty much the same as the older EF versions, but with a built-in EF to EOS R adapter that's not removable, although that extra distance does mean that they will be able to accommodate the RF teleconverters, and the drop-in filter system remains the same as the EF models before them. Canon spotters will notice, like other RF lenses, there's no focus distance window, that's been removed from the old EF models, although unusually no dedicated RF control ring either. So you can expect the optical quality to be, well, pretty much exactly the same as the EF models. However, Canon claims that a new double power drive AF system, coupled with native communications over the RF mount, means that these new lenses will focus faster than the earlier EF versions, whether they're adapted to a mirrorless body or working natively on a DSLR. Canon's also implemented 3 different manual focusing speeds, and again, thanks to those native RF communications, the actual image stabilization should be a little bit more effective than the EF versions. The last of the 3 new RF lenses is the 100mm f2.8 L macro, costing £1,479, and unlike the 50% magnification of the 35 and 85 lenses, this is a true macro lens. But forget about the meagre 1:1 reproduction of the earlier EF 100mm macro, because the new RF version will actually deliver 1.4:1 magnification. So that's a really nice upgrade over the previous model, which required an extension tube to match that degree of magnification. Oh, and the new RF 100 2.8 macro achieves that reproduction at a distance of 8.6 centimeters. You'll also notice a new SA control ring on the barrel, allowing you to adjust the spherical aberrations. This separates elements in the focusing group to vary the softness of the defocused areas, or to give a softer focus effect, like a more sophisticated version of some earlier Canon lenses with soft focus controls. This control ring turns smoothly. They aren't actually stepped positions at the markings, but there is a clickable position in the middle that makes it easier to return to that central neutral position. Oh, and if you do adjust this ring, you will need to refocus afterwards. Meanwhile, dual nano USM motors handle the focusing, while Canon claims 5 stops of optical stabilization, or up to 8 stops when mounted on a body with IBIS, although those are CEPA figures which don't take macro distances into account. And that's everything I know so far, although I suspect, like the R5 campaign in 2020, that Canon will gradually tease us by releasing more and more specifications over the coming weeks, and I'll link to all of the latest news that I have about the camera right here, along with a complete review of it when that is ready. And I think the same thing's going to happen with the Z9 as well. So now that we know a bit more about the R3, we know a little bit about the Z9, and of course we know everything about the Alpha 1. Which one of these pro mirrorless bodies are you most excited about, and which of the features really set them apart for you? True eye autofocus, anyone? Can you imagine glancing through that viewfinder to move the AF area? And what could that new subject be that Canon's new autofocus system will be able to track? Let me know in the comments. I hope you found this useful, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.